Bill, we were just talking about bow hunting in general, just standing here yeehawing around, and you struck up a conversation about your tracking dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked you to wait so we turn the camera on and get this on video. Stick him in, there you go. Now, who is this guy right here?
This is Mo, and he's a Teckle, or wire hair dachshund, that's what he is. And he's saved my can a time or two on some less than perfect shots, and actually lots of guys he's helped out. Just one example is the story we were talking about, was a deer that I happened to shoot and I didn't hit it well. I knew I had hit it back and hit it through the gut, so it was an evening shot. So like you should do, I had planned to leave it go overnight and come back in the morning and bring Mo over. Gut shots for us are very difficult, obviously, because there's not much for us to track by sight. You know, there's not much blood on the ground. But they're one of the easier tracks for a dog because it puts a tremendous amount of scent on the ground. But that deer didn't do what most gut shot deer do, and that going short distance and laying down. So I didn't know that at the time, but after I'd shot the deer, we're going to leave it overnight, like I said, and bring Mo back the next morning. Well, that night, a storm come through and it rained 4 inches. So I was a little concerned, but I took Mo over there the next day, and usually a decent trail that would take us hours, he'll do in 5 minutes, pretty much fast as you can walk to keep up with him. He is on a leash, of course. In Ohio, they have to be on a lead. And so this one, he was back and forth really wide, and the reason for that, I suppose, you know, I'm not the greatest with tracking dogs. He's my first one. But when it rained, it spread that scent over such a wide area. So he was always in the scent, so he had to keep going from one side of the scent.
Get to the outer edge of it.
Right, to make sure he was staying on the trail well. And I didn't know he was doing that, to be honest. I thought he was searching for the track, but I don't believe that's what he was after we finally found the deer. So I started him over a couple times, thinking he had lost it. And this deer went, we ended up finding her. It took about an hour, maybe an hour, a little more. But the deer went a good 650 yards across 2 creeks, open fields, and also in the woods. And I would have never found that deer without the dog. You know, most of the time you don't need a dog, but when you do, my goodness, they can save the day.
Absolutely. And wounding losses are always a concern. And as bow hunters, we want to do our utmost to recover a wounded animal. We both know that. And, and I realize everyone doesn't have access to a dog. I've used them in the past, and they're indispensable if you have one available to you for recovering your game. Guys, keep that in mind. You might have someone in your community, or if you're hunting out of state, or you're hunting with a guide or an outfitter, don't be afraid to ask them if they have a dog, or if they use a dog, or somebody has a tracking dog that could be made available for recovering game. And it's not that we as bow hunters are selling ourselves short, or we cannot track ourselves, we cannot recover game. Most of us can. We do a good job of it. If you're on a guided hunt, you're out of town, you got to return home, make that flight, get back to work. I'm telling you guys, once you've used a dog and he finds a deer in 5 minutes that would take you 2 hours to find, you'll be very appreciative of having a good dog. So just keep that in mind. If one's available, by all means use it.
I also think,
I'll tell you, you know, Bill and Tracy both, I've been around them for several years and have known of them and what they do. And Bill's a real humble guy, and so's Tracy. And you're never going to see them on the TV show touting their accomplishments. And you're not going to see too much out of them, like in a magazine or whatever. But Bill and Tracy, again, they're both very accomplished hunters. I've been in their home. There's trophies everywhere. And, you know, it's always a benefit when you have a manufacturer of a product, if that manufacturer is very proficient with that product. It adds a lot of merit to his claims and his development process and this and that. And I asked Bill if he'd be kind enough to just kind of share some with us. And I just, you know, was asking you the questions with your hunting, kind of the quick synopsis of where you've been and what you've shot, basically.
Well, really been pretty lucky to get to travel some to hunt. Living in Ohio, of course, we hunt whitetails a lot and turkey. And I have lots of guns, but I never use them. Just enjoy the bow hunting, obviously. So we've hunted whitetails in several different states, turkeys as well. Been able to go to Africa even to hunt relatively early on, after high school, before I went to the Marine Corps. So I had some time there, so I went to Africa.
Now, I want to point something out to you folks. You know, you see someone out and about and at these shows, and you don't know their background and don't know their history. And Bill just pointed out he went to Africa bow hunting out of high school before the military.
Correct.
So this was a few months ago.
It's been a day or two, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So I'm just laying that background for you guys. The guy's being humble. But go ahead.
Well, it took I worked 3 jobs for 2 years to be able to do that.
Because if you want it, you got to get it, and it takes the effort.
Right. So Africa was great. Really enjoyed that. Learned a lot. Got a lot of experience there. A lot of animals, to learn from. We've hunted out west some. We've been elk hunting, of course, a couple of times. Javelina. Haven't been able to go mule deer hunt, or have not made the effort to go mule deer hunting yet. But bear, we've done a decent amount of bear hunting.
Right, and the one thing I noticed quickly in your old photos and the hides in here and the full body mount, I'm assuming you like bear hunting.
Oh yes, we like bear hunting, and especially Tracy.
This is where I'm heading with this.
Tracy would bear hunt every year if we could do it.
I wish Tracy was here. I don't know if I'd ever get her in front of the camera too much to talk about it, but his wife is a stone cold killer.
She could do it, yeah.
She's a very proficient traditional hunter, and it's a pleasure to be around her. It really is.
But since she's not here, I'm going to brag on her a little bit.
That's what I'm hoping for.
She has killed more bear than I have. She has killed bigger bear than I have. She's killed bear closer than I have on the ground. I think the last one she shot was up in Manitoba. I believe it was about 6 yards on the ground.
That would get your underwear tight.
It does, yeah, it does. And she was cool as a cucumber too about it. I'm sitting there. I've got the video camera, videoing the thing. So I got the camera here on the tripod, moving it around, and there's bears all around us. A tremendous amount of bear in Manitoba. The one she wants is kind of wise to us. I think it knows we're there, but we were hunting over a bait site, and it had competition, so it kept coming back because it was one to run those younger bears off.
It was wanting to defend its food source.
Exactly. So bears all around us, and at one point, within a few yards. So I've got the camera. Tracy's sitting there like another day at the office, and I've got the bear spray just in case. I think I might have been slightly more concerned than she was. But when the shot presented itself, she was cool as a cucumber. I was luckily right behind her, so she pulled back and made the shot, made a perfect shot. The bear went about 40 yards and flopped over, and that's pretty customary for her.
Absolutely. And there's a very important point about this that I want to discuss, because it's something that I'm very adamant about and spend a lot of time discussing. I deal with a lot of new archers, and I don't want these archers overbowed.
Right.
And Stacy's a good example. We just don't need an 80-pound bow to proficiently hunt these game animals. And I won't learn anything from what I'm saying. I want to hear what you had to say about it. But
well, her setup, Tracy has a 25-inch draw length is all she has. She shoots 40-pound bow at her draw length. And
I want to point that out. It's 40 pounds at her draw length.
Correct.
Because if she was shooting a 40-pound bow, she might be shooting 32 or 34 pounds at her draw length.
Right.
Okay.
But she still shoots a fairly heavy arrow, like 450, 475. I don't remember exactly offhand. The key to it is we make certain her tune is as perfect as it can be, so that arrow is delivered spinning true as possible. A silly sharp broadhead, and the arrow is set up well for her. With that amount of weight, we put a bunch of weight forward to help with the penetration. And of course, she's shooting a grizzly, the single bevel grizzly, 2-blade. And out of the 5 or so bear that she shot, just using bear because she's killed several deer as well, I think she's gotten complete penetration on all of them, and maybe one that the arrow actually stayed in, but there were 2 holes.
Gotcha.
So the setup is right for her. It shoots well. She shoots it well. It's tuned incredibly well, and a scary sharp broadhead.
Right. And I'll tell you, Dr. Asby does a good job with his reports.
It's great. Yeah.
Guys, don't get hung up on arrow speed.
Mm-hmm.
Use a sturdy broadhead and make sure your mass weight is up. Get your momentum, and you'll weigh through these animals with bows in the mid-40s.
Easily enough.
You'll shoot so much more accurately when that shot counts. I'm telling you. If you're shooting 60, 70 pounds, if you're shooting 55 pounds, if you're shooting 60 pounds, if you're shooting that weight proficiently,
right, that's the difference.
More power to you. I'm getting older. I've shot for 45 years. I mean, literally, I've shot hard for 45 years. My shoulders, my elbows, I can't do it anymore. And if you can shoot 55, 60 pounds proficiently, that is a benefit. That's going to help you. But Clint Eastwood said a man's got to know his limitations. And if it takes dropping down to 45 pounds and you notice that your accuracy improves dramatically, in the total scheme of things, your outcome in a hunting situation is going to be better every single time.
You may even gain draw weight or draw length.
I wasn't going to get into that, but performance, because increase in draw length, you're making up in that power stroke what you're losing in poundage.
Yep. Yeah.
And just, if you would, what type of setup are you working with as far as arrow weight and broadhead?
It depends on the time of year. Usually I start the fall with, depending on what I'm hunting. If we're going to be hunting elk that fall as well, I'll usually go to like a 52 pound, something like that.